Ooh. Oh. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, hey guys. Just sitting around playing with my VAT Viewmaster here. Looking at some of my 3D, pictures of 1979 Spider-Woman and 1979 Fantastic Four. Right now I got Spider-Woman in it. It's pretty cool, man, because it has like the Enforcer and it's got the Jack Russell werewolf in it. I think I've got the comics. I think they might have pulled some of the slides from. And the Fantastic Four one's not bad. It's taken issue 1 and 99% of it's 3D Kirby. But this one's kind of yellow. You can kind of tell the age just caught up with it, or they put it up somewhere. And you know that 70s film, even if it's Kodak, it's all yellowed. You know, the 60s, the film has a green tint to it, and then in the 70s, it's got a yellow tint to it. Who knows why? And I got a ton of these things. You know, from over the years, Incredibles, Superman, Teen Titans, Justice League, and some older ones somewhere. Loved this when I was little. All right, so what we're here for today is I'm going to talk about a Star Wars comic book. And a couple of weeks ago, I talked about the Star Wars comic 8-issue miniseries that started at Dark Horse, where they're adapting the George Lucas screenplay, his original screenplay. And then I'm also did a podcast with a couple guys that same week and ended up talking about Tag and Bink are dead. And what's so cool about it is that it's interactive with the first Star Wars movie, the new, A New Hope. Now, I'll get into that in a minute, man. But I'm going to self-readily I'm just going to go ahead and admit it. I am a Star Wars snob. Star Wars came out the same year I started reading comics when I was 4 years old. And like I said before in that video a few weeks ago, there's before Star Wars in everything in the world, pop culture and everything. Then there's after Star Wars, where it's just, everybody knows Star Wars. And what is strange is that I can remember going to see Star Wars, but I don't remember who took me. I remember seeing it 2 or 3 times in the theater. And the reason I'm saying 2 or 3 times is that there's a third time I'm not quite sure where I was at, because let me explain. First of all, I remember going to the theater in a place called Richlands, Virginia, where I was growing up. And the place was a dump. It was old and well loved, and people were starting to give it a bad reputation. They had, looked like the theater in the Muppet Show is what it reminded me of. And what was amazing is that, like, I remember they had a few trailers. They had like maybe 1 or 2 trailers. And then and I think one was like, I'm not going to get into it, but then they also actually showed a Disney cartoon. And I remember it was one with Pluto and a chipmunk, I think. Pluto and the Chipmunks. And then all of a sudden, bam, there are no opening credits to the movie. There was no Lucasfilm at the time. All you had come up on the screen was a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And then and then it just went right into the movie. Never saw anything like that. I mean, usually you had some kind of little cartoon going on for an intro to the movie, talking about the cast of characters and the actors and the writer and the producer and all this stuff. No, man, this went straight into the movie. And you come out as a little kid and you're having a lightsaber fight with yourself on the sidewalk. And there's other kids that come up and join you and stuff, and everybody's talking about Star Wars. So yeah, I'm a bit of a snob on it, man. So, and I'm not ashamed of it. So all the other comic books that have ever come out, even though I've got a few, I don't consider them canon because George Lucas didn't do it. I don't believe Luke Skywalker married Mara Jade. All these stories I would hear from people, I'd be like, no. And I'm sure I came off like quite an ass, but just couldn't do it. I've got to be true to myself. And then I found this Tag and Bink. There was a comic that started coming out called Star Wars Tales, and it had some funny stories in it. They had one where they kind of had a little scene because Sam Jackson played Mace Windu, and he also played in Pulp Fiction as Jules, and they had a little story in there that cracked me up, so I kind of started getting open-minded. I'm like, okay, that's funny. I love my Spaceballs, so why can't Star Wars be funny? And then I found Tag and Bink are dead in 2001. And that's where we're at, man. This thing is interactive with A New Hope. After you read this book, if you know your Star Wars scenes and you know your Star Wars dialogue bit by bit and everything like that, you come to find out that you'll see Tag and Bink in this movie. That's what's cool about it, okay? That's what's very cool about it. And not only not only is this just not just like two guys in the background going through the Star Wars movie having some moments, they're actually responsible for some of the dialogue, and they're actually responsible for some of the they explain some of the inconsistencies that are in the movie, and they are actually important. You come to find out that it wasn't the Millennium Falcon that almost killed Darth Vader when they were in the Death Star trenches and stuff. You come to find out it was the bad piloting of Tag and Bink. Alright, take it out of the bag so you can get a good look at that cover. Now this one takes place solely in Star Wars A New Hope. Okay? And then the extra, the number 2, and that's it. There's only 2 of them. Number 2 takes place at the end of New Hope. Kind of backs up a little bit to explain a few things, and then it kind of picks up in between Empire and goes into Empire. Alright? There's a running gag they have with C-3PO. There's a running gag they have with Boba Fett. I'm not going to get into this one, but I want to show you a few years later they came out with Star Wars The Return of Tag and Bink, even though they're supposed to be dead. That picks up with Return of the Jedi. Then the second issue picks up with Revenge of the Clone Menace. It's the second set of the trilogy, of second trilogy of the movies. But I digress on those because we're here to talk about this one. Now this is by a guy named let me make sure I get his name right, Kevin Rubio, and the pencils are by Lucas Marangon, M-A-R-A-N-G-O-N. Okay, I'm not even going to try. Okay, Marangon. I don't know. I tried. But anyway, we start out and it's in tongue-in-cheek action, and right off the bat they sit here and he's letting you know. You see the artist and the ink pen and all that stuff getting on, and he kind of explains what he's doing here, and it's a little behind the scenes, just tongue-in-cheek and stuff. And then we open right up with the beginning of the movie, but they have their thing, they have their comedy already going on. That's what makes this so much fun. And then it opens right up with C-3PO and R2 going on as the Star Destroyers come into bring Darth Vader on the ship at the opening scene, while Leia is getting ready to record her message to Obi-Wan Kenobi. But this is what I'm talking about. Tag and Bink are actually working, as the guards on this ship. And they bump into each other and they almost shoot C-3PO. Okay, they bump into each other. The gun goes off, almost shoots C-3PO. They have a little tit for tat down here at the bottom, and then we have the opening. We have that line, "We're doomed." Turns out C-3PO wasn't talking about the stormtroopers or the Star Destroyer. He's talking about Tag and Bink. Their own people almost killed them. And they're going on. They're having like this. They're like a little comedy team. They're going back and forth on each other and getting on each other's nerves and stuff. And when the stormtroopers invade, they turn around and hightail it and run. And you see how this is where you can start seeing them in the movie if you look real close. I see C-3PO is talking. I'm not going to walk you through it or everything. But as they're talking and stuff, and they're freaking out because the Empire has them and stuff, to get the big idea to get out of there, they're going to get some stormtrooper costumes, and all of a sudden they're stormtroopers. And they have little adventures here and there where, if you watch the movie, you're going to be able to tell which 2 stormtroopers they are because they get orders from actual characters in the movie. In the movie, they're actually giving orders to those stormtroopers, if you follow me. And of course, they end up on the Death Star, and their whole thing is to get off there. What's cool is one of them, I think Bink, is actually from Alderaan. And here's a little cute tongue-in-cheek thing. You have the Death Star, and the artist did the Dark Horse logo in lights on the Death Star, which I thought was very cool. So it's like just a fun little book. And the big scene that cracked me up was you end up finding out that when the Empire gets there, they're trying to get off the Death Star this whole time. They end up marching around the stormtroopers. Twice they end up dressing up like the pilot stormtroopers and the TIE fighters. And actually, when they end up being stormtroopers again, if you follow me, there's a part of the Star Wars movie that always bothered me. Obi-Wan Kenobi had gone off on his own to do his Jedi/ninja, stalking and stuff, and he's going to turn off the force field. And all of a sudden he's climbing a tower, and there just happens to be 2 stormtroopers on a bridge behind him. Turns out those 2 stormtroopers that are sitting there that are talking about guns and stuff, the new guns and stuff, like they're talking like they're cops or military or something, don't see Obi-Wan Kenobi. Turns out it's Tag and Bink, and they did see him. And that's what cracked me up. They didn't want to interfere with Obi-Wan Kenobi, so they had to sit there and play dumb like they don't see him. I think it's in here. Just great, great stuff. So after they let Obi-Wan Kenobi do the thing, turn a blind eye, they switch costumes again, and they think they're going to get in TIE fighters, and Darth Vader stops them. And when he stops them, he's like, "You're with me." And then when the great big huge battle comes in, where all the X-wing fighters are coming down and they're going down the tunnel trying to shoot the little hole so that this star will blow up. In comes Darth Vader with his 2 TIE fighter pilots, and it's them, and they're freaking out. Okay. That's what's so cool about it. They also have a running gag with Boba Fett. They hate him. And they also have a running gag with C-3PO. At the beginning of that book I showed you where they accidentally shot and C-3PO was yelling, "I'm doomed." Well, there's a scene that they go into with Empire Strikes Back in a second issue where they end up being in Stormtrooper outfits again. And if you remember your Empire Strikes Back, when they ended up on Cloud City and C-3PO walked through a door, you never see who he's talking to, but he's like, "Oh, excuse me," and you hear a Stormtrooper voice. The next thing you know, C-3PO is blown to bits. It was Tag and Bink. It was an accident. So, these are 2 books I would go get because they are fun. Watch them, read them, whatever, with your Star Wars movies and have a little fun. And see if you can find Tag and Bink in the movies, because it just adds a little layer to it. It actually explains a few things that are kind of funny, little tiny plot holes here and there. And if you like them, I think they might have had 2 other miniseries or something. I'm not going to get into it. Alright. And they actually, I don't know if it's in this book, I'm going to go ahead and look, but remember how Boba Fett went in the Sarlacc pit? Well, they kind of explain, they have a little scene about how Boba Fett gets out of the Sarlacc pit, and they have to make a little, deal. He's not going to kill him, and they won't tell anybody how he screamed like a bitch when he went into the Sarlacc pit. Pretty funny stuff. Alright, that's it. It's my Star Wars video. Alright, Halloween's coming up, so let's all get excited for that.